enormous potential to significantly improve the agriculture sector. To deal about this section, we have our honorable guest, Prof.S.Nachiappan Subramanian from the University of Sussex Business School, UK. He is Professor of Operations and Logistic Management and Supply Chain. He has a teaching experience of 22 years in UK, China, Australia, and India, and a 2 years experience as a consultant. He is Fellow of Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, UK, and Senior Fellow of Higher Education Academy, UK. Professor have published 100 peer-reviewed research papers in leading operations and management journals. His research areas are technology interventions in supply chain, sustainable supply chains, risk and resilience, and performance measurement. On behalf of IIPM and the FDP team, I would like to extend a special welcome to our guest of honor. Please take over the section, sir.
So over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much for your kind words. Before starting my session, I would like, can I request you to give access?
Yes, sir. Already I host, just make you co-host. You can do it, sir.
Good. This will stop others. Okay, so good afternoon all in India. So we are
Started, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you so much for this opportunity. I appreciate your kind invitation. I'm happy to share some of the research what I'm trying to do with respect to food supply chain. Especially, I know most of the people in this session are from agriculture side or food system side or retail side, etc. So that's my assumption basically. So I'm going to take you through some of the research what we did in the past, especially in terms of implementing technology to collect data and then to reduce their food loss and waste in different stages of farm to fork supply chain. So basically, I'm just going to take you through some of the research what we did, and I'm also going to let you know what are the scope for future academics to do research, and then typically like what analytics is. My intention here is to share how you can use graphic user interface tools to analyze data. So I'm going to take you through KNIME open source platform, how to use that platform to do some of the basic supply chain analysis, what we did in the past using conventional methods. So how this data, like the realistic data, real world data could be used to identify a warehouse in a food supply chain. So that's my focus. So hope you will enjoy the session. It is a bit longer session. I know it's very difficult to sit in the afternoon. So where I can see like many of you after lunch, it is a bit hard, but I will try to make the session much interesting so that end of the session, I hope you will benefit something out of the today's session, so that it will be useful for you to do your academic research or from the consulting point of view. I'm just looking. Okay, so can you see my screen, please?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is visible.
Yeah, fine. So
Yes.
first, I have splitted this session into two halves. First half, I will try to take you through the blockchain, its application, potential research avenue using blockchain. The second half, I will take you through the analytics using graphic user interface tool called KNIME, how to do it, and I will try to demonstrate a kind of a hypothetical case in terms for a fast food supply chain, how they wanted to locate a facility such as warehouse in Europe, right? So that's my agenda today. So as you know, I'm from India, but work in the UK for a long time, as well as abroad in different countries. I have exposure in terms of working on manufacturing as well as on the food supply chain. So what I'm going to cover, like as I mentioned, take you through what is, I hope many of you know what is blockchain. You might have known from the cryptocurrency point of view, but we are going to see from the how it would be helpful in a food supply chain to enable transparency and visibility from end-to-end supply chain. So basically, like how in terms of research perspective, what we can borrow from the past, like whenever new technology emerged, what people did, and how to imitate something similar in order to come out with some kind of new research avenues in the food supply chain. Then what are theories and methods typically they ask when you do academic research? We are more interested to advance knowledge or in terms of theoretical perspective or in terms of methodological perspective. Then what are the research opportunities? So I know most of you know what is blockchain, but anyway, I like this video, which I which I would expect you guys to have a look. So this is a short video which explains what a blockchain is. So I'll try to share this video. Stop sharing now. I hope many of you have heard about the blockchain. This explains pretty much very clear of what blockchain is in a simple layman terminology.
If you manage a team, you have to try Monday.com. Monday.com is a platform to track everything your team.
How do you?
I need to share my screen.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Sorry about that. Share. I think you can see the YouTube video.
Yes, sir. Yes.
That you bought is actually fair trade. How do you know which one is real? How do you know that this t-shirt has not been made in a sweatshop with a simple tag added at the end? You simply don't. In order for you to be certain, you would need a record of all transactions and events of the life of an item. That would be possible with blockchain. What's a blockchain? That's a fancy word. Blockchain is related to Bitcoin, the cryptocurrency. Initially, it was made for financial transactions, but it is now revolutionizing the business world, especially supply chain. It's just like Google Sheets. With regular transactions, there is a middleman like the bank that registers this transaction, a centralized system like Microsoft Word. But with Bitcoin, transactions are between user to user. So when there's a transaction, the information is recorded in a shared ledger or block, and these blocks are linked together to form a blockchain like a shared Google Doc. Transaction accuracy is driven by the fact that consensus creates truth. In a blockchain database, every participant or node maintains a copy of the shared ledger. Each transaction on the blockchain is recorded in computer code showing who the parties are, transaction details, and timestamp with each containing the unique math-based encrypted signature. This digital signature is key as it allows each block of information to be securely connected to all the rest. It's this system of full transparency and connectedness that lends the blockchain its trust and credibility. This connection provides an audit trail of every transaction that's ever occurred in a system. So, if there were an unauthorized change, each node is notified and we can see where it took place. They then would agree to recognize the change as valid or rejected. Again, transparency and consensus combine to make the blockchain system virtually tamper-proof. Today, your data is stored in silos, just like a Microsoft Word file. When blockchain, your data will be stored publicly or pseudo-anonymously in a shared database. Now, with blockchain, you can track the chronological history of the organic cotton shirt that you bought. You cannot temper or cheat because everyone using the system is watching you. The blockchain revolution isn't going to happen overnight, but it is expected to change your lives, like the wheel did, or the electric motor, and the internet itself. I believe that this blockchain would be the next industrial revolution.
Yeah, so this is typically like, can you see my slides, please? Is this a problem?
No, sir.
Not yet, yeah?
Not yet.
Yeah, just a second. So the what we have seen to us typically like is about what are the, like how blockchain is going to change the future. I think you can see my slide, right? No?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're seeing it is visible.
Sorry. Bit of like I need to. There is a bit of a coordination issue here in terms of like understanding whether we can see the screens when we switch screens. I think there would be a problem. That's what it is. It's a big challenge in Zoom. Anyway,
Yes,
so
sir. Yes.
so what we have seen is like what we have seen from the video is like blockchain will enable like collaboration between stakeholders as well as it may ensure that there is a consensus and transparency across stakeholders. They
बोलो
can,
अरे तुम्हारा
and they
वो
can
जो
see
एक काम
what they can
करना,
utilize,
तुम मैं
how
जो
it
जो बोल
works,
रहा हूँ सुनो,
so
तुम्हारा
that
सेकंड
consensus and truth
सेमेस्टर में
drives
बैक है
the
बोल रहे थे
supply
कल
chain.
ना
Right now,
सिक्स में
they
नहीं
have
है,
a lot of
फोर्थ में नहीं है. सुनो तुम एक
social
काम
issues.
करो, तुम्हारा रजिस्ट्रेशन नंबर लिख दो, नोटबुक में लिखो,
I
बता
hope
रहा हूँ,
okay, right? So there
लिखो
is
लिखो,
a it's better to mute
पहले
others.
लिखो, नोटबुक में लिखो, मैं बोल रहा हूँ क्या क्या चाहिए.
Right. So typically, like it's very well used nowadays. So there are a lot of pilots projects are ongoing, especially in the Western world as well as in the US. Like there are many pilot projects successful in terms of tracking the product where it starts and where it ends, so that if something goes wrong, the supply the focal company doesn't need to point fingers or blame somebody else. They can say they don't know. So in this case, it is typically more or less we can see where it comes from, what who does what. It is like nothing but a transaction record which will be shared across all members in the supply chain. So they can't say I don't know what happened on the other side. So everybody sees what is happening on the other side. So everything is recorded as a block. Whatever activity at what time, who did, and who is involved in that operation. Everybody can see that. For example, we have heard about number of events in the past in terms of recalls in supply chains. Like Toyota has to recall the car like due to seatbelt issue. So they said the supplier made a mistake, so they have to make a recall. If they make a recall, the supply the company is going to lose 50% of profit. So they don't want to recall. Likewise, in the food side, it is more safety is a concern, and it's more hazardous. Like something goes wrong, and then like hospitals some years back in the Europe, horse meat scandal was a big issue. So instead of a meat or a beef, they started adulterating with the horse meat, and then horse meat scandal became very like dubious in that time, like because they started blame Tesco, the retailer Tesco in the UK started blaming the supplier. They did something we didn't know, so they can't now with this blockchain they can't blame others. Everybody knows what is happening at the other end. So that's a benefit of blockchain. So I'll not show the other video, so you can watch later on because of time. So typically it's a hyperledger where it's nothing but as mentioned in the video, it's a shared document where everybody can see what others are doing using some pseudo-anonym, they call pseudonames, or it's called pseudo-anonymous. So typically like others, like they have it's very hard to tamper or hack. It's all highly encrypted. So only the permission, like the people who have permission on the network can access the data and see. Also, they can see what happened, but they can't alter or redo something. But the computational cost is so high. So we will see the good side, but there are also like the other side where these operations need a huge computational power and kind of like investment. So it's a ledger which has been which has been like shared with multiple people in the supply chain. So whenever like it is like they also call something called smart contracts. Like whenever they make they enter into an agreement, they say like different terms and conditions. Everything will be automated if blockchain comes. So in the case of supply chain procurement side, everything becomes more smart. Now they code all the do's and don'ts, so that system will automatically make decision without intervention of human being. So it's a shared registry where people can see what is happening on the other end. So totally it eliminates the third party or the intermediaries. For example, the financial transaction bank is going to become very invisible in future. Likewise, in a companies, they rely on consulting companies like Boston Consulting or McKinsey or Accenture or whatever, like it could be Anderson or whatever, like they are going to audit on behalf of somebody else. The third party would be auditing and finding out everything is right. So in future with the blockchain, all this third party auditors will disappear. So this is typically like to explain it as what is happening, what is the problem we have. We have a third party like banks, and we have auditors. Those banks and auditors in future, if all the parties have a blockchain, if they are using a common platform like IBM as a hyperledger platform, if everybody shares hyperledger, then there is no need of having a third party to understand a bit of like, or to understand what is happening on the other side. So please feel free to stop me if you don't follow me at some point of time, right? So with the blockchain, if everybody is connected, so no need of auditors, no need of banks. So all will be like, the truth will be revealed to all. Everybody can understand and see what is happening, so that they can't blame later on something goes wrong. They can also fix something if something is wrong. So for the business point of view, like other than financial transaction, from the supply chain point of view, for us, it is beneficial in terms of executing a smart contract. Contract is nothing but an agreement between two parties or between multiple parties. So which all the rules, like all the terms and conditions in the contract will be automated in a case of a smart contract. So then there is no need of a person to intervene to make a decision. So everything is stated before entering into an agreement. And in terms of privacy, it's a pseudo-anonymous. And in terms of consensus, everybody needs to agree if they wanted to go for this kind of arrangement. So this is a famous example with Walmart. What they did is they used a blockchain on a pilot basis to trace the mango, which comes from Africa or somewhere in Ivory Coast, to US. So they said, like, a lot of mangoes, there will be bugs and bees inside the mango. So they wanted to reduce the waste. So they don't want to take all the defective mango from Ivory Coast to the US. So they wanted to find out which batch has some kind of issues, which tree or which batch. To that level, they can trace the data. So so previously for Walmart to do, they needed 2 weeks to trace exactly where the mango comes from. So unnecessarily, they are moving defective part from Ivory Coast to the US. So with the blockchain, like, so it says with 2.2 seconds, like in 2.2 seconds, they can trace where the mango comes from. So that in future, they are trying to avoid shipping something, a defective product from a particular location to the retail outlet throughout the US. So it helps them to reduce unnecessary transportation costs. So without blockchain, 2 weeks, 6 days to 2 weeks, it took to track and trace where the product comes. That's a benefit. So this is a big successful example of applying a blockchain to a food supply chain in order to trace and track, so that unnecessarily they don't want to move a defective product in the supply chain. So you can see, like, I don't know, I can show this video. I don't know. So this is a typical example. I'll try to show this video. So how Walmart successfully used this blockchain to track and trace in 2.2 seconds. So I need to stop share then. Yeah, I think I can share now.
Purchased a pack of mangoes. I came into my staff meeting. I put them on the table and I said, your traceback exercise starts right now. And we timed how long it took them to get the information for each point in the food system all the way back to the farm. And I'm not going to give you the results after the pilot, but it's going to be good. customer shops in our stores, we know they expect great prices. We know they expect fast, clean, and friendly service. But an unspoken expectation is that they expect the products that they buy in our stores to be safe. You know, when there's a food event or a food scare, what you want to do is you want to be fast, but you want to be right. That food product is guilty until proven innocent. We at Walmart will actually pull all of the product until we know what is the implicated product. We can put the safe product back out. And so imagine if we could pinpoint with certainty within minutes, not days, that it was the implicated product. Walmart and IBM are working to make that a reality. If you think about the food system, it's pretty complex. It involves farmers, processors, distributors. And the way traceability is done today, each segment of the food system does it their own way. Most actually do it on paper or on systems that don't speak to each other. And so you can never have a full view of what's happening in the food system. What we hope to do with blockchain is bring all food safety system stakeholders and collaborate so that we do it one best way. We can do it very quickly and efficiently. Blockchain is a digital ledger that allows different segments of the food system to capture information about the product, what they've done to it, where that product has been. If we're linking that data with other data points, the Internet of Things, all that information will yield to insights that will allow us to have a safer, more affordable, and sustainable food system. But we don't believe traceability is the goal. We believe that transparency is the ultimate goal. Blockchain will give us the ability to not only track where food came from, but how it was produced. Was it produced safely? Was it produced responsibly? Is it sustainably grown? How many dates of shelf life are left on that product? The food system is a shared responsibility. And for blockchain and traceability and transparency to work, we need a lot of people working together. So we're excited to be working with IBM on this blockchain initiative. But it's not just Walmart and IBM. We actually have some of our suppliers participating in this pilot. We've got some universities also participating in the pilot. And so we'll make sure that all stakeholders work together for a safer and better food system.
So that is like what Walmart did in terms of ensuring transparency in the food supply chain. So basically, like they were successful, I would say, in terms of so this is a typical example, like where people now have faith on blockchain and everybody is moving towards blockchain to create transparency so that they can fix issue where it originates so that nobody could be blamed later on. Also, they don't want to waste time and money in doing so. So it removes cost, it saves time, it reduces risk, and as well as it increases trust. So blockchain technology, when integrated very well with supply chain. So there is a big question right now with the COVID crisis. Like they are like coming out different apps, and then they were tracking and tracing of a infected person is a serious trouble right now. So people are thinking how to use blockchain, but there are a lot of privacy issues, especially in the Western economy right now. Like they do have this kind of like data protection regulation where they don't want to share the private data of individuals. In the product, it is easy to share the movement of a product, but whereas in the people, it is still with the regulation point of view, they're struggling how to make it work. So it is possible, it is doable. I think people will come out soon with who is spreading asynchronously, who is spreading like asymptomatic, like who is asymptomatic and how they're spreading this infection. All those will be captured with the help of blockchain. So that's how companies are working right now to identify who is infected person, how to make them isolate, how to alert them to isolate them so that they will not spread this coronavirus. So it's still on because people are different than products. So that's a challenge we have right now here. In terms of supply chain, coming to food supply chain, so what are the benefits of using this blockchain? So we can record the quantity of like the assets, like how much we are moving, what is the pallet number, what is the pallet size, when it has been produced, where it has been grown. Those information we can record, we can track while moving, and we can, for a safety standard, we can assign like certification and say that this is a safe product. It can be moved, there is no defective in the product, etc. Also, we can integrate with IoT stuffs like the guy mentioned in the video. You can include RFID to auto track and trace and things like that. Also, you can share information. So these are some of the benefits in supply chain for tracking and tracing, especially not traceability, it's more transparency and building trust among the stakeholders. So it is scalable. Now, like with this Mango, they tried in 2.2 seconds, they're able to track and trace where it comes from so that they avoid sourcing from that particular location if there is a defective. So that way they have got some kind of like power, like or kind of it's a decision. It helps them to make a decision where it comes from, so that it is helpful for them to sort out and avoid kind of like losses to the company, as well as to unnecessary activity. We all know that in a food supply chain, 1/3 of product what we produce goes as waste. So if we can prevent that, like if you have enough data, then in future we can improve the resilience of supply chain. That is a big task right now. So because every report, if you go to FAO, Food and Agricultural Organization studies, they say, oh, 1/3 of food goes goes waste globally. So they say like, but there is no empirical data like micro level data where it goes waste and how it has been treated. What is the total accumulative waste from farm to for supply? Nobody knows. These all are only rough estimates they are trying to say. But in future with the digital technologies, it is possible to capture at micro level what is happening so that they can reduce waste, which will loss or waste, whether it is post harvesting or pre-harvesting, it could be loss. So those things can be prevented, then would certainly enhance the resilience of food supply chain. So there are like, as you've seen in the videos, couple of videos, it's secure. It asks, it gives a platform. It is a platform to increase the collaboration. So where people can share ideas, thoughts, and see what is happening, how long it takes them to complete an activity, and so that everybody will come with new ideas when they see what is happening on the other side. So traditional supply chain, we need multiple contracts and then all paper-based work, and nobody knows what is happening. In the case of a blockchain, there will be a collaborative system where everything will be automated. So operational data mostly will be operated in terms of when it has to, when something goes wrong, what to do next, whether to switch supplier, not to switch supplier, or switch location, not to switch location, or delay transshipment, etc. So those things can be automated with the blockchain. And we can also address the trust issues right now what we have in supply chain, which is killing lots of supply, including Apple. It is giving killing every supply chain. So they want transparency. So for example, Apple has been into trouble when Foxconn engaged into kind of other kind of a human related issues. So they got into trouble. So they didn't know what is happening inside the factory in Shanghai or in Beijing. So they want to know what is happening. So with this blockchain, hopefully if everything recorded and if everybody can see, then those kind of mistakes could be prevented in future. So it's nothing but a seamless flow of information across supply. So that is a big issue right now. Still we have at this 21st century. So which has to be sorted out. Hopefully this would be a big platform to achieve those. So what we know, like especially when we want to, from the whatever I have shared with you right now is more about commercial application of blockchain and how it could be useful from the business point of view. From the academics point of view, what as an I know many of you are wanted to do some research, you're looking from blue ocean strategy or new thoughts, new ideas. So what we could do from the academic, as an academic, I'm always interested to find some kind of interesting a gap in the academic research and how in terms of blockchain, what research I could do. So that's what I'm going to expose you to some of the open research questions we have for an academic to pursue further in order to understand what needs to be done. So if you, for example, whenever you, I'm just in this slide, you can see the DNA of IT in supply chain. So whenever information technology made some revolution, how it changed the academic research. So in 1960, 70, when progressive computing came in, like it helped logistics planning. For example, storage, inventory optimization they could do. They could deal with the route planning and things like that. So in 1980, when personal computers came, they supported a lot of planning, other planning activities in addition to progressive computing. Like other than operational decision, they are able to extend from a supply chain perspective. So this became viable in 1990 when internet and the ERP came into the big picture, where it enabled companies to collaborate. It eradicated a lot of paper-dominated activities, order processing activities, or shipping, procurement activities. In 2000, it's like more or less internet ruled. So where companies are able to connect, and then all this global supply chain becomes feasible. Like they were looking for efficiency, and they were looking for reducing costs wherever possible. They were looking for outsourcing, become very popular phenomena. So the globalization, when the global supply chains become the need of the hour, that time in 2000, 2010. So when in 2010, like e-commerce sites dominated, where they like all the retailers got affected, where people got like an app or a tool to buy stuffs from at the home, at the doorsteps. So now, like more or less in open information, now what we are talking about blockchain is how to integrate ERP softwares. Yeah, whereas like ERP is most like a custom-based software which has been focused towards one company, and like otherwise for small and medium scale suppliers, it is very hard. Like for example, farmers to buy a cloud-based ERP is an expensive option. So now with this blockchain, it is feasible to go for an hyperledger where it is when it's like a pay-as-you-go kind of a stuff. Whereas in the past, if they want to buy a SAP system, which is very expensive, only like big companies can buy those kind of software. So those things will like mobile phones, it is going to change very soon. So typically when we say like what we can learn from previous IT revolution in order to do an academic research. So we have did a lot of stuff like in terms of supply chain point of view in the research on food supply chain. We did a lot of stuff on physical movement of goods. We did a lot of stuff on financial aspects, but information point of view, like bit and pieces, like RFID when it came, or a barcode when it came into picture, or when it ERP. So, but what is going like on the information side, linking end-to-end supply chain is still a dream, and it will come true very soon. So with this kind of blockchain, so blockchain very well connects both information and finance, and it links various end-to-end entities in the supply chain. So whatever I have seen are good things about blockchain, but there are several dark sides of blockchain. Typically, like the transactional throughput, like the number of volume of transaction is going to take place between, say, like 1,000 suppliers. So for example, if you take Boeing, they have 10,000 suppliers. So if you think about, imagine like how much computational effort and time it is going to, if you want to record all aspects of data. So the data size is going to become, it's a very big data. So it is a tremendous in future we need a lot of data analytics people to understand what is happening at each level, how to mine this data, how to visualize this data. That is a big challenge right now. Once they implement this blockchain, then there comes a question like how to make a good story out of this data. So that is big limitation right now. It has not been very well integrated. So people are only taking a pilot or a simplified kind of a supply chain to understand what is going on. So then other one is latency. They say like time required to add data to the blockchain, it is very high. So each transaction like is a block. So for example, assume that Boeing has 10,000 supplier. If they wanted to record all the data, it is going to be a massive size of data they have to store and process and make some sense out of the data. So the size is going to be huge files, like it is going to be the bytes per transaction size is going to, so every block is going to be a big size. So say storing, analyzing, it is all going to be time consuming activity for a big network, supply network. So, and then immutability, erasing the data once you blocking means like once you like everybody approves it is you can't irreverse, you can't change. That's the beauty of blockchain. So once you do record, then nobody can change it. So that is they call immutability. So you can't change it. So that is erasing is irreversible. So that the purpose is if I make a mistake, if others can see that, so I cannot cover the mistake by changing this. So I have to do something new to say that what I did earlier, I did a mistake. I'm trying to do now, fix that mistake. So everybody will see, come to know that I did a mistake at the first attempt, then I corrected in the second attempt. So I have to create a new block for correcting that. So again, in terms of like company perspective, like all the company in the supply network, like they need to, and they are not ready. So there is no technical expertise available or infrastructure available right now. It will take some time for people to digest and go for it. But many companies are already in terms of multinational or Fortune 500 companies. So there are issues with scalability. It is scalable still, but there are issues in the sense financial aspect. There are some issues, and there are like a lot of challenges where companies are exploring how to overcome this with small and medium supplies. So anyway, so if you are more interested on multiple cases, we wrote a book recently on blockchain and supply chain logistics. We look at the different, not only food supply chain, we looked at manufacturing, healthcare, retail, and other stuffs like basics. So you can have a look if you're interested. You can ask a library to get this copy and have a look at this. This is a very concise report of based on our research, what we did 2.5 years in different supply chain to understand what are the research gaps available. So there are, I try to list here in terms of upstream to downstream supply chain, what are the research opportunities in purchasing and contract. Like there are many things could be done in terms of establishing a coordination mechanism with the use of blockchain, especially with the smart contract contextualizing to different sectors, and how to maintain buyer supplier relationship management, how dynamics will change with the technology introduction. In terms of production inventory management, how to mitigate bullwhip effect, the volatility or variance in terms of order delivery process. And in terms of supply chain governance, like this, we know it gives trust, and again, how to manage the supplier in this kind of new technology introduction. So that is going to be a big challenge. So for example, we are doing right now research in terms of understanding the level of penetration of IT between tier 2 suppliers and tier 1 suppliers. So again, we see like only 50% of tier 1 suppliers who use internet and e-commerce or other advanced digital technologies, whereas tier 1 suppliers are well advanced. So tier 1 suppliers are trying to exploit tier 2 suppliers in a way that they become based on their capability, digital capability. So there are people are exploiting opportunities. If they are dependent on something, they are trying to make use of it. So that is happening in the business world. So there are a number of things could be done on the supply chain risk management, how to identify partners, how to process map, especially now they talk about with the COVID crisis, they talk more about risk and resilience of food supply chain or any supply chain. Luckily, food supply chain have not broken in this COVID-19. So it was going smooth and there is no issues right now. Because of enough, like previously there was a panic buying, there was even though there was variation in the demand and supply, still it survived. So that's a beauty right now. So now people are how to get prepared, how to reimagine the supply chain, how to make a hybrids of these things are ongoing discussion, and it's an open research question right now. So how this blockchain can be used to understand the provenance of the product, where it comes from, so that there are many CSR issues in the past. So especially using, for example, Nike, they used like one of the supplier in Vietnam, they used child labor to produce their product, sport apparels, so which hurted their brand image. So those issues can be sorted out. Like for example, in the UK, we have a popular store called Primark. They buy stuff from Bangladesh. So when there was a Rana Tower collapse in Bangladesh, so it totally affected the image of Primark. People were a little bit concerned to buy the products from Primark. So this is not because of Primark. So they wanted to, in order to reduce costs, they are looking for a market where they can cheaply source things, but they need to think about ethical CSR issues in future. So there are many case studies could be done to investigate the integration of hardware and soft technology. So these are the research opportunities available in terms of blockchain. So in terms of theory, if you'd say like constantly people use innovation adaptation, like they try to see the diffusion of innovation or technology adaptation. They call technology acceptance model, UTAT model, and things like that. There are many variations. So, and then in terms of structure, they have looked at in the past, whenever new technology comes in, they looked at the structuration theory and information processing theory and institutional economics perspective, how it affected their businesses and processes, and how it affected the performance of the company. So these are the theories in the past they used whenever a new technology emerged. So the innovation adaptation, if you take, for example, the first one, what people have studied, what are the key elements, what are the innovation characteristics that is influencing the new technology, the stages of adoption process, like what stage it is feasible, and what are the barriers, drivers, etc. They have studied in the past. So similar things can be done with the blockchain right now. So and again, a lot of past studies looked at the behavioral aspects of human who are going to use those technology. So there are many theories like theory of recent action, or theory of planned behavior, theory of technology acceptance model, UTAT. So these theories emerged to understand the behavioral dynamics of people using technology. So similar things could be studied right now with the new technology blockchain. So certainly you can make some contribution. So this is typically like a research question from a research article, which says that uh, what to study, like what are the antecedents of or consequence of blockchain or a physical internet adoption. So they say we want to, there are scope to study the diffusion of innovation or technology adoption, how it is going to change the performance of the entire network. Or it could be, we could study how to structure the new supply chain. And from the theory, we can look at the transaction cost economics, principal agent theory, or structuration theory. They call adaptive structuration theory. So how to manage the new supply chain? So basically, in the past, we used to look at RBV, resource-based view, or network theory. So in future, how to think about the structural and network analysis and things like that. So there are possibility to relook with the blockchain, the use of the old theories for the new technology. So if you refer to IT literature, especially MISQ, like a Management Information System quarterly journal, there are a lot of studies on TAM with respect to previous technology. It could be RFID, internet, or CRM, or ERP, etc. Whatever software you talk about, the many studies. So they found out the causality between variables, how behavioral variables influences the performance variables, etc., due to the intervention of new technology. So also there are many things could be studied in terms of contextual effects, but still it is in an infant stage, or there are a lot of nuances to be understood from the blockchain adoption. So, and also how this technology, as I mentioned, like the data is going to be massive. How to analyze how to integrate this technology with the big data analytics, cloud computing, robotics, or artificial intelligence. That is going to be a big research opportunity we do have. So I'm just going to share, after the blockchain, I'm going to share a hypothetical case where they use data mining, kind of like using KNIME to identify the location of a warehouse. So some of the research questions which came to our mind when we did the different cases from the different industry, we found out that these are the questions, these are suggestive questions, but still further things can be done. So basically we looked at how blockchain characteristics, especially immutability, transparency, programmability, decentralization, consensus, and distributed trust. So trust is distributed, we are going for. So how these characteristics is going to influence the single company or the network of firms. So how do blockchain character affect organizational adoption? How do organizational characteristics affect blockchain adoption, organizational adoption, or triple bottom line sustainability of the focal company or the network of companies, or how blockchain implementation create new structures or impact or support supply chain management. So these things are open research questions. Right now we have anybody to research and find some kind of empirical evidence and advance the literature. So this is from a recent paper which like Purnether, like we talked about the typical characteristics of moderating effect of trust between new technology, blockchain technology, the mediating effect of traceability and transparency, and moderating effect of trust on performance, that is trade in a company. So they looked at how this technology could like how the two characteristics of this technology will enhance the performance. So any questions? I will stop here. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to take, and then if not, I'll move further to the next part of my session about analytics.
If you have any question, you can ask, or you can type it in chat window also. Any questions, sir? Yes, sir. We can take question after the second topic. Yes, yes.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much. So, okay, so now let's move. Like once we have blockchain, we assume that we have enough data. For example, we have captured many data about where the product comes from, what we have like multiple steps recorded, what to do with the data, how to visualize, how to make a good decision out of the data. So we have a very good like a tool. Many open source tools are available, right? Graphic user interface tools, like I don't know, you might have heard about KNIME. So KNIME is an open tool, like we call Constance Information Miner. So which is it is easy to use. It's a graphic user interface tool. If you know the workflow pretty much well in terms of like what you're trying to do, then it is easy to process the data and visualize and then come out with kind of a realistic decision. So KNIME, I don't know, you must know that it is a powerful analytical tool. So it can be used for data analysis, machine learning, and sentiment analysis. It's pretty much it's a primitive version of they call AlterYX. So it's very easy and interactive to create workflows, building models, and for data cleaning. It's an open source tool, and then for retail side they use big market or big market, whereas for this KNIME could be used for any kind of analysis, machine learning analysis. So you can try at some point of time. I don't know if time permits, I will demonstrate what we did, but otherwise it's easy to do in terms of it's easy to download. You can start pretty much. There are tutorials available for you to follow and create workflows to analyze the data. So typically it has whatever the case I'm going to present is based on the KNIME what we did. So I have a student and then he tried to create an hypothetical cases for different decisions in supply chain. So we are trying to come out with the course material for understanding how our aim is to create a course material for people to easily use graphic user interface tools to automate decisions at various stages in supply chain. So if you go to KNIME, it has Explorer, Workflow, they call Workspace. This is important to create a workflow. And this is what they call node. All this, like a flow chart, you'll create a node where it has all inbuilt functions. So for example, it could be if you want to do a regression, or if you want to input a data, or if you want to normalize, or if you wanted to do a exploratory analysis, all nodes are inbuilt. Simply you have to drag and drop. Kind of whatever inbuilt function, you can simply drag and drop to understand what for example, if you have a million rows in a data and an invoice, sorry, in a record of transactions, so you can make some story out of that transaction about understanding about typical customer behavior, purchasing behavior, or feedback, etc. So this is important part in KNIME, and then you have like other windows which is not so like description or outcome. So our if you use KNIME, the three windows you have to be like Explorer to create open save files, and then this workspace is to create the workflow. Node is an inbuilt function for you to retrieve the inbuilt function to use in your workflow. So what I'm going to present today is like how to use KNIME to identify a centralized warehouse in a context like in a Europe context. We use only hypothetical data. So we all know how to locate a facility. For example, on the supply side or a demand side. Supply side, they locate a facility nearer to the resources to reduce the transportation cost. Whereas on the demand side, they will try to locate a facility nearer to the customer based on the demand and nearer to the customer. So they will try to find out an appropriate location where the accessibility of customers, ease of convenience, space availability, demand, and then purchasing power, etc., etc. How to incorporate all those data in order to find out a suitable kind of a warehouse where it can cater to multiple retail outlets. So that's our aim. So for example, we are taking here as it could be a McD, it's a fast food supply chain. It could be McD or it could be KFC or whatever it is. So for those kind of perishable products supply chain, how to locate a warehouse so that they are effective, like they were efficiently and effectively cater towards the various retail outlets in the market. So we are looking at Europe. So we are assuming that there is a new fast food chain is going to enter into Europe, and they wanted to locate warehouses so that they need to cater to the different country markets in the Europe. So it's an hypothetical fast food supply chain. So first our aim is to focus on 20 cities in Europe. So the software we are trying to use mostly is KNIME, and then for visualization and others, we are using R integration. So a bit about context. So it's a perishable goods, like for example, as I mentioned, so fast food supply chain. We know like the time window is critical in a perishable, like it has to be moved from the source to the retail outlet within 30 hours window or 48 hours window through reefers from origin to storage, from storage to retail outlet. So we can't have too much of inventory, so it has to be consumed a certain expiry date. And we try to assume that in this modeling, we try to use a single echelon supply chain, meaning like we have one stage from warehouse to retail outlet. So that's what we are consideration here it is. So we are trying to move the quantity in the batches, in the pallets across warehouse, where we assume that they do have a cold storage and inspection facilities to monitor the temperature, humidity, and other characteristics of the product, whether it is meat or it could be like vegetable, etc. So warehouse is seen as a procurement points for various market hubs. So our single echelon supply chain is a warehouse and several market hub. It could be Paris, London, or it could be like Moscow, etc. So Moscow still we are using as a part of Europe here. So warehouses, like we know whenever we make a decision, we use center of gravity method to previously the traditional method used to locate a facility is center of gravity method, which only takes into account the distance and the demand. So in a realistic, it is very an approximate method to do, but for nothing that helps. But in a realistic state, we need to consider multiple factors. So center of gravity is not sufficient. It's not able, we can't do that. So if you take, for example, warehouse, it has several objectives. So it has to cater to the like 95 to 100% service level. And we have to make about reduce losses. At the same time, without any losses, we have to, within a specified time windows, we have to ship all the quantities. We can store only for a day or for an hour if it is a cross docking. And there are a number of issues with the taxes, even though like Europe is a single union, but still they do have a different VAT rates. So having several warehouses, so But it's a big question. Do we need to have several warehouses or minimal warehouses? So that's what we are trying to find out in today's case. Um, so I said 40 hours is a time window we have to work on top 40 hours time window, and in exceptional cases and unavoidable situations, we can also use, like, they have a sophisticated trailers, and here, like, they call reefers, where it's a cold storage facility, in transit cold storage facility to protect the characteristics of the vegetable or fruit or a perishable product. So we assume that all are in place when we develop this model. These are the assumptions for developing this model. So what are the factors? Normally, I said, like, if you go for a conventional center of gravity method, even though we have a technology like blockchain, etc., we capture all these data. What to do with the data? So we know the market demand, market consumption, and there are several other factors which could be captured from different sources, and how to make a realistic model which reduces total loss and waste. So some of the factors came to mind through research. One is, like, when we are locating a new facility, we need to know the geospatial coordinate, which we very well use in the center of gravity method too. And the first two we normally use in the center of demand and geospatial coordinates. Whereas the other factors which highly influences this efficiency and wastage. So other factors are taxation. The entropy is, like, mostly the volatility in the market, like the demand, due to demand, or due to the order delivery variation, due to competition, the market penetration, the affordability of. There are many things will affect this entropy. They call entropy. Then the quality safety standard for perishable product. They need to use before use by date or expiry date. So, and the pricing, like, we need to understand the purchasing power of a consumer in a particular location. Then the people, like the homogeneity or heterogeneity of the nature of the people living in a community or in a city, and their purchasing power. So Big Mac index is, like, most pricing is based on, like, the value of the currency, the exchange rate, as well as the price of the product, whether it is underpriced or overpriced in a particular market compared to the other equivalent markets. So I'm just trying to give a background information about geospatial coordinates. So the location of market, like, we need to know the latitude, longitude, which now pretty much we can get those data from Google Maps or any maps, which is plotted in two columns, latitude and longitude. It's easy to get for other cities as a market in Europe. And the demand, like, how to estimate exact demand in your model? Like, there are several metrics to include. One is expats, the city's growth, city population, the expats inflow, outflow, the tourists, the type of event that is happening at different time period. It could be summit, it could be conference, sporting events, film festivals, etc. So we need to, whenever the fast food chain or trying to locate a warehouse that decide the capacity, locating in the sense, like, they're going to come with a big capacity. They need, the main aim is to reduce the transportation cost, and then they need to look for the market characteristics to understand, like, the demand nature. So some of the things what we can capture from various available secondary data has been mentioned here in terms of demand. Likewise, I said taxation varies in Europe, like VAT rates. So for a quick replenishment and variability, the product often endures, like, number of issues with respect to tax. So each country has different tax rates, and then it also influences the purchasing by behavior of people of a particular product. So this is bullwhip effect is captured using entropy. We say, like, something which could not be used goes as waste. So because of the issues with order delivery, or it could be with respect to the uncertainty in terms of competitors, promotional schemes, and things like that. And third one is, like, pricing, how to price the product. It depends on, they based using on a Big Mac index, like they need to balance very well between supply and demand. For perishable product, this because of the the small time window it is big becomes pretty much critical. It loses its value if the time exceeds or if it is closer to the expiry. So how to model? When you do a modeling, we need to model the pricing index based on, if you go to Google, find out Big Mac index, you can find out the price, equivalent price of a burger. For example, they started with like dosa economics in India. They did a burger economics. What would be the cost of burger in Switzerland? What would be the equivalent cost based on the current exchange rate? What would be the equivalent cost in United States? So they will try to fix a price based on the nature of the product. And people composition, like the homogeneity, heterogeneity of people living in the market. For example, you take London, we have like big group of diverse group of people. So their consumption, their consumption habits are totally different. So they need to think like every people will like to buy a fast food, it is a burger or whatever it is. So we need to think about the ethnic groups, now the complexity of like different groups. If it is homogeneous, it is easy to predict. If it is heterogeneous, it is a bit complex. So you need to think about whether non-native, native people, how close they are access to their own food and things like that. And standard is a pretty much straightforward. So now people are more conscious with the dates, and then whether the quality of the food what they buy, plus the whether it is consumable before. They are more cautious in terms of consuming before expiry date. So especially with the pandemic now, like they wanted to clean the product multiple times. They don't know, it's become mystery whether virus is present in anything. The safety packaging becomes a serious issue right now. And the final factor we are going to consider is purchasing parity index. Is affordability, like the income of people and whether they are able to buy. So there is an interesting phenomena recently with the COVID. Like now they found out that the infection rate of the COVID spread is much higher in a poor region of England. For example, people on the low labor wages or obese people, they eat a lot of kind of like fast food, are subjected. They lost immunity. They got more. They have less immunity, and they got more affected. They were vulnerable. So typically, like, it also so the rich areas in England, they are not affected because they're eating healthy stuffs. So the immunity is strong. So the spread of virus is very low. So purchasing parity varies within a country. With various region, it varies. So all this fast food will be located only in the poor areas where people would go for these kind of junk foods. So for us, in terms of supply chain, we need to find out where the locations are, like supplier management, how to eliminate the cost and the wasting cost, like the transportation. So they don't want to go for a richer region. They wanted to go for this poorer region where people can buy a lot of junk foods. So we got 20 cities at the beginning. It's a hypothetical case. We got all this parameter, whatever I mentioned. This is not a big data. This is to illustrate how we can do this model in KNIME. So typically, like we had so 9 or 10 parameters for estimating the location. So even though we try to go with the data reduction technique, but still we need to be more realistic in making a decision. So we got this location, demand, entropy, taxation, quality expectation, variety, pricing, and purchasing. So something nine parameters from different sources, the data from different sources, and it is scalable. So we can get many. Sorry. So there are many aspects behind this. So what we did typically, all these stages, like in KNIME, it is straightforward. It's only like including a kind of a node. So node repository, from node repository, if you say exploratory factor analysis, you can pick a node. you can, for example, principal component analysis or whatever method you're going to use, if there is a direct node, so you can use and then configure with the Excel table, then it will do the analysis. So it's straightforward. So for exploratory factor, for in the pre-processing stage, we need to understand the trends within the data. We need to find out so in order to reduce the dimensions, we will first step is to find the correlation between data, so that we wanted to eliminate all this redundant information. So we do a pre-processing so that it reduces the number of dimensions, and it is easy for us to analyze and to relate the variables and to come out with the decision. So we do, this is all simple nodes are available for you to do the correlation. So we know that whether it is perfect positive correlation, negative correlation, no linear relationship, etc. So that we want to have higher variance in the data. So there is a straight direct node in KNIME to find out the linear correlation or correlation index with the data. So we did that for this 20 cities, 20 cities from different countries in Europe to find out the correlation, whether it is positive, negative. We can do it via data or heat map. They have heat map. So all diagonal thing represents like it's almost correlates is one. And the others, like it's positive or negative, can be mapped. So first step is like we have this 20 with 8 or 9 parameters, 20 cities. So how to reduce the number of, are we going to consider simultaneously all the 9 parameters to make a decision to find a location, or we are going to reduce? So the simple way is to reduce, so that we find take away all this redundant information. If it is fully correlated, then we will try to avoid the redundant parameters and only have a few dimensions, so that it makes our life easy as well as more realistic. So first one is we are trying to reduce the dimension by principal component analysis, or if you are so it is mostly based on linear aspects. Whereas if you are more interested on where there is a dense data and you want to visualize better, then we can go for T-distributed stochastic neighboring embedding, where it develops a non-linear relationship between data and it exactly capture the variance within closer data. So other thing is, if it is if you have a handful of data, you don't want to do this dimensionality reduction. So in a KNIME, there is a node called PCA. If you take, you can reduce dimension to 2 to 3, so that it will be easy using principal component. It will try to combine and say what are the components you need to look into it. So that's easy to do. So for our analysis, we did 2 dimensions. So we also tried with multiple methods, so that our aim is also compare which is giving better results. So we also used stochastic neighborhood embedding, T-distributed stochastic neighborhood embedding. So a couple of parameters you need to be careful in terms of perplexity and number of the default. You can use the default values in order to form a model it as a non-linear distribution. So then once we engage, first we engage both methods, and then we try to normalize to standardize all the data, so that so it's based on a Euclidean distance. All these parameters in terms of identifying, we try to so normally we do it in, for example, center of gravity. Also we do the Euclidean distance. We did the same here. In terms of finding out the variations among the locations. So when we do the PC normalize, we stick on to 2 dimensions. So then we got these parameters for the 2 dimensions for the 20 cities in the Europe. Then we also use these stochastic neighborhood embedding method. Because of nonlinearity, we went for 3 dimensions. It depends on the variations where we restricted the number of dimensions. Sorry, the data is bit clustered. Yes, we did the normalizing for this this is without a dimensionality reduction, sorry. And then we tried to cluster it because we wanted to make some for warehouse, we can't go for the 20 cities. We want to, based on this 2 dimension, we try to cluster the market into a few groups, so that we can locate a warehouse where it can cater to the all market based on these 3 dimensions, which is equivalent to 8 or 9 parameters we had initially. So we used very well like k-means, as we all know, it's a clustering based on the characteristics, similarity of the characteristics. It clusters a group of cities together, markets together based on the dimensions. So there is a node for k-means in KNIME to do. So again, the question comes here when you go for k-means, whether how many, you need to specify the number of clusters in the model. So normally for that we can do kind of a elbow point analysis to find out what would be the optimal number of clusters that will avoid empty cluster formation or redundant cluster formation, etc. So we found out from this cluster separation and number of clusters, we said like if we go for 4 or 3, then it would be almost like more optimal point to go for. So we did this analysis to find out the number of clusters. So we said we will stick on to 4 right now, 4 groups, 4 major groups, meaning like 4 warehouses to cater to the 20 cities. So then for visualization, we used integrated KNIME with R. For plotting this in terms of graphs of maps, we use ggplot2. Again, I used my student to do this, all this integration aspects, and then to visualize the data. So with like based on the 4 segment, based on the 4 groups, we found out different we found out different cities corresponding to different groups. So we tried to, so which will be better, like this is, I will try to show here. So without no dimensionality reduction, the cluster, we can see that cluster number 1 had many cities covered. Then comes cluster 3. So with dimensionality reduction, we are able to at least optimize based on the distance. So there are a couple of outliers. One, we found out Moscow. Moscow was linked with London and Paris, as well as the Kyiv, which was like it becomes a one city cluster kind of. So we wanted to sort out these kind of outliers. So if you go for a TSNE, then it made much sense, but still it also more or less the outcome came as similar. Like Moscow was based on the market characteristics and the dimension. Moscow, London, Paris, it clustered together, but in terms of distance, they are totally different. So that is an outlier. So we found out that, so then we have to regroup Moscow into different clusters. So we came out with 4 clusters to cover all the cities. So we can also use scatter plot to visualize data. So we tried the 3 methods: PCA, stochastic neighborhood, as well as no dimensionality for clustering, and we found out that okay, out of this PCA made some sense, like linear kind of analysis made made more sense compared to non-linear estimation. So we sticked on to it. So basically, like we wanted to find out where, like for example, this cluster 1, we had different cities, and we had to decide which city. So which city to locate the warehouse. So all this city came together as cluster 1. Again, the question comes where to locate the warehouse. So we took further and we studied the characteristics of each cities. For example, we found out if you locate in Brussels, there are a lot of it's a European Union kind of a capital where a lot of English speaking people are there. The transportation cost is lesser. So those kind of character, in addition to the existing other known things, like we also need to know additional details to locate the facility. So first one, we tried to like whether we were seeing the other characteristics which could reduce cost and waste, so that also that it is easy to ship within first 12 hours time window. So in this cluster, we grouped them to like this came from the k-means clustering analysis. Then we said Brussels or kind of Germany, Dortmund, etc. So we were like, based on the characteristics, we finalized the location. Then Kyiv, even though it had only one city, but the prospectus of becoming huge in terms of covering other parts of Asia, for example, Kazakhstan and other things, which is for the food supply chain in future, if they want to expand the scope, if they locate the facility warehouse in Kyiv, then it is easy for them to cater to other markets. So that's how the rationale for having this as a warehouse, even though it had only one city, that made sense based on the characteristics. The third cluster, even though Moscow was here, we pulled Moscow out. Then London and Paris had an equivalent, more or less. It's a big market. And then in London, for example, we can't exactly locate in London. We have to locate a facility where it is easy to ship, and then total inbound cost could be reduced. So we found a Southampton would be good to locate. Likewise, in terms of the fourth cluster is more about Spain, Italy, Hungary, and things like that. So in this case, we looked at the different characteristics where to locate. So then we found out like Warsaw in Poland was good. So so there are some issues happen, like even though with a handful of data, we found some of the outliers which created complexity in the analysis, which we have used the common sense to figure out those issues. So typically, I'm just showing you this how we looked at. So when we decided within the cluster how to locate a city, we looked at rent rates, proximity to market, road and traffic flow, proximity to airports, availability of labor. We looked at the nature of segments considered, like how it has been clustered, etc. So number of factors we looked into while making a final decision where to locate exactly the warehouse. So yeah, the first one, like we went on Brussels strategy for one, and then the second one we went on Kyiv. The third one we went on Southampton in London, and fourth one is in Warsaw in Poland. So it is this is a simple hypothetical case we tried out with KNIME. It is possible to develop a full-fledged model with hundreds of data. And also to make a reasonable, realistic decision. It is possible with this KNIME and R integration. So for this, we referred some of this like MIT OpenCourseware slides, like SCM articles, Harvard Business articles, etc. So with this, I will stop here, so that because in interest of time, I'll stop here. I'm happy to take your questions. Thank you. Yeah, I'm happy to take questions now. Sorry, I was like running out of time, so I should not, yeah. So I can see some of the questions.
So shall I ask one question?
Yes, please, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, it was very nice presentation. One thing regarding that big data, because every day we are having a lot of enormous amount of data is being created.
Okay.
So from that, how do we find whichever data is actually reliable for our particular data analysis? You know, some of the data may not be that much reliable in the true sense, in which application we are using that data. So for the data analysis purpose, is there any method for refining that sort of data? Or in that KNIME open software,
yeah,
but the normalization is taking place, is doing that type of data refinement?
It is like we have to apply a bit of a common sense here, because when we see like there are like number of functions there in KNIME, like missing data. So reliability is mostly depends on the if you say reliability of the data, it depends on the source where we get the data. And if it is a quantity, then we have to be a bit careful, use our own, we can develop our own functions to filter those data. It is possible with KNIME to do that. For example, with this normalization, we try to, for example, we said, okay, even though it like, for example, outliers came and we have to intervene and say that, okay, based on the population characteristics, geospatial, or it could be like market volatility, or it could be purchase power index, the analysis, how it grouped. So we have to engage some kind of common sense to filter out those aspects. So yes, there are now some number of filtering nodes available in KNIME, but in terms of reliability is where the data comes from. That's what I refer to, like where the source, where it's authentic data. That's what I understand. If I don't know whether I am answering your question. So the if you say reliability is authenticity of the data. So authenticity of the data.
Example, supply chain and locations of other countries.
Yeah.
Odisha is rich in agriculture. Okay. Can you have cooperation with us to find out some studies for the state of Odisha? We are an engineering college. We have agricultural engineering department.
Yeah.
How can we go about this?
Yeah, we can
so help us.
So offline, if you send me an email,
have a lot of experience.
Yeah, offline, if you have I think organizers have my email, so I'm happy to talk to you offline. So if you can send me an email, I'm happy to share our experience. So we did a number of studies in Turkey, in Brazil.
Okay. Then okay. I'll get your numbers from the organizers.
Yeah.
Or you can also collect my numbers. So
Yeah,
let us have a discussion and let us help this state of Odisha with your vast knowledge and experience to organize something, and the farmers will get adequate benefit, because we are talking of agriculture. Nowadays, agriculture is the only industry which has to meet the people's need.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for your nice deliberation.
Yeah.
And I am impressed with your rich experience and exposure. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, sir. Very good and very informative presentation. This is Siddharth here. Sir, I just want to have one question. If we analyze the data, does it reduce our advertisement and all those that cost? If we analyze the data properly, so that can we reduce our cost on advertisement and other aspects, promotional aspects?
So there are different things like whether my intention, mostly our intention is focused on how to reduce waste, reduce loss when the pre-processing stage, or waste in terms of post-harvest stage. So that is like how these data, like how to capture micro level data to understand bit about reduce. People are not aware of what is going on the other end, how to use technology and analytics to reduce waste and loss. But in terms of what you're speaking about in terms of advertisement, that is totally different in terms of like brand building, how people wanted to build a brand, how they need to understand customer preferences, how to improve sales. So that aspect, I have very little exposure towards that side.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Any other questions, please? Sir, I have many things to share, but because of interest of time, I don't want to dump too many things in right now what we did. So I mentioned what are the limitations in Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So some of the questions are there in chat window. You can check it.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the chat window. Yeah, so will blockchain method help to get original seeds from farmers for agriculture purpose? Yes, it is possible. If it goes to like a mobile technology, if it is able to penetrate to all the nook and corner in India, then certainly yes, all these kind of issues can be sorted out in terms of authenticity of seeds and things like that. That is a major advantage of using blockchain. Where in Africa they are doing right now in terms of like in mines or in terms of like fishing or in terms of uh, uh, procurement of any vegetables they are doing right now, because people easily adulterate and manipulate things. So especially if they're interested in Western market, they are doing this right now. Then I can see what case blockchain is similar to supply. No, blockchain is nothing but it's a sharing. It's a shared document with a limited kind of a registered participants in the supply chain. It's not public. It is like a private network. I'm sharing my ledger with the people in my network. So whatever I do, others can see what I do. So that's blockchain. So the supply chain is mostly like linking people to have a common goal. So for example, they went for global supply chain. The aim is to reduce cost at different stages. Everybody needs to get benefits. So somehow we got dependent on China over time. So that is for cost and the skill point of view. Okay, so then I can see blockchain can be used in supply chain. Yes, certainly yes. There are few pilot cases, but still a long way to go. Yeah, that's
Good
all.
evening, sir.
Yeah.
This is Vadiraj from Mysore.
Yeah.
Sir, I wanted to know, you gave an example of Walmart, that how they collect, how they included this blockchain for reducing the pest infested goods.
Yeah.
Now, if I have to have want to have a data like that, then I should have a data of farmers who are supplying as well. In
Yeah.
most of the cases, farmers and all, they don't have the sort of ledger and all. Then
Correct.
how can we rely on those data?
Yes. Now what is happening now, like on the pilot basis, it is like cloud-based data. You don't want to buy a separate software or like a ERP or something like that. So whenever like you like after harvest, if you want to ship something, like pay as you go. They call pay as you go is if I want to use it for entering something information for half an hour, I can pay like internet, like a browsing center, right? In a browsing center, I can access this open ledger. I have a username and password to input all the information there in half an hour and 1 hour, and then it will be like others can see what I have inputted. So it's nothing but like it is going to be very soon like an internet center where you can go there and in a cloud you can access and dump all those data what you got it. So again, it depends on the person who is entering the data. So we believe that people will enter the right data.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? To what grassroots level can we implement blockchain in India, considering technological knowledge? No, it is certainly possible. So because nobody thought, like for example, in Kenya, the mobile technology revolutionized people's day-to-day activity. For example, they call M-Paisa, like something like that. So they transact, all the banking operations started taking place in mobile. So like everybody is having mobile. Very soon they're going to have an app for entering data. So that is possible. Not only a browsing center, like for example, if they don't have a kind of like smartphone, now we do have cheaper more smartphones in India. So if they have a smartphone, they can easily enter data of whether they're ripening a fruit or a kind of a vegetable, or a fruit, or preserving a vegetable, how long, what time they harvested, how long they kept in the home, and before shipping, how long it stayed at home. All those data can be entered as a block, as an information for others to see how long it will, how to decide the shelf life, and until what the time they can preserve it, or whether they need to sell it in next few hours. All those decisions can be made if they know all this information. In a way, end of the day, our work, we are not wasting our work. So because we know on the global level, 1/3 of what we do goes as waste. If you have those kind of data, at least we can reduce the waste. So in a way, we are contributing to climate change, we are contributing to loss, reduction of loss, etc. Any other questions, please? I think I didn't see any other chat. I think should be, yeah. Yeah, at the grassroots level, it is possible. So these technologies are changing globally. So even though with this pandemic, still we are connecting, we're talking to because of this technology. Otherwise, we have become totally isolated. I can see a lot of promising things in India, like in especially like how people adapt to new things, how they fancy towards learning things, the ability of people to understand fast. All those things helps a lot compared to Western economies. Especially in the COVID, we can easily compare the behavior of people, how they behave and what they do, etc.
Is there any queries from participants? Could you please ask?
Hope it does not. I don't want to dump too many things on the limited time, but anyway.
Yes, sir.
Time.
So from my side, I want to just a little query regarding for the blockchain technology. See how the blockchain technology maybe have a research scope in agri sector, especially when you talk about UK. See any models or any like business models or any models adapted in any agri sector in UK, because you yes.
They do. For example, Nestle is a Swiss company, but still they have a big operation in the UK. So
yes,
for Nestle chocolates, they buy all this milk, like
yes,
dairy farm,
yes,
from different regions in Switzerland. So all the suppliers, they have like more than like 2,000 suppliers to supply milk to produce the products of Nestle. So they do have blockchain from the point of farmer to how the milk they have implemented right now. Now they are in the advanced stage of tracking and tracing the carbon footprint because they wanted to minimize the CO2 emissions. So to meet the targets, like for example, China is saying in 2060 they will become carbon neutral. For example, in UK they say in 2025. So they wanted to halve the carbon emission. So companies are using this technology to understand how to localize the procurement, reduce the shipment and things like that using technology. So this technology helps them to know what is the present state and how they need to redevelop the network so that they can reduce. So there are few big companies have already started.
Yes.
As far as I know, for example, I came to a case from Provenance. They say like how fishing could be like, especially this, they do a lot of like farming, salmon fish is a farming they do in Norway.
Yes.
How they need to cultivate those fishes, kind of like, and then how to understand the right age for them to ship and things. Those things they're using blockchain.
Yes, yes. So basically, when you think about the Indian food processing sector, there is some issue regarding for the supply chain. Like I want to tell you, some perishable goods want to transfer, right? They want to go for transportation. There is a more big problem faced by different food processing sector, like vegetable, like fisheries. More cases. How blockchain technology going to be solve that problem?
Yeah, typically like what I can see from India is mostly like the spread of like infrastructure,
Yes.
the cold chain storages.
Yes,
The
sir.
access to cold chain storages to a local farmer it's a big challenge.
Yes, sir.
So they do. So number of facility available is right now minimal. Plus the access, we are the connecting people to the right infrastructure. So that is a big challenge right now. So I think there should be some kind of support from the government to create those facility at regional level.
Yes, sir.
So, for example, I have seen many things in China. For example, I worked in China for long. So, China's government is totally they're different. So they have a cooperative system where for each county or each they call district, they do have kind of a regional infrastructure in terms of like it could be a strawberry or it could be any other vegetable or fruits. So they
Yes, sir.
try to mobilize and ship all those content in the local cold storages, and from there it goes to multiple retail outlets or other outlets, or it could be a open trade fair market or whatever it is. So there is like a cooperative movement at local level where they do create facilities to store and save. So here we do have a lot of problem linking local farmers with the kind of a regional infrastructure. So
Yes.
technology is a second. So if we have enough infrastructure, then we can minimize inefficiencies. Then
Yes.
technology would certainly help to reduce waste. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, sir. I think maybe
Good
in
evening,
chat box.
sir. Good evening, sir. This is Dr. Rupa from SRM.
Yeah.
I have a small question. Thanks for your innovative discussion, sir. Actually, we are from basic electronics department, but we want to shift our idea with blockchain because I actually did with artificial intelligence and I want to extend it to blockchain. So,
Mhm.
but as a starter, is there any possibility because the discussion and all the data which is connected to blockchain are something like big data analysis?
Mhm.
So, as a start researcher, or we want to do anything because the research funding agencies always require and something like innovative technology which we want to do.
Mhm.
So, what is the real initial start, sir? Because do we need to collect all the data? Because that will enable us to help with the blockchain technology. Or is there any protocols that we need to follow if we want to shift our paradigm to blockchain?
Yeah. So typically blockchain, for example, the data structure is going to be unique. So for each product, they do have a different data structure. So then if you come up like there are a lot of open research questions, what are the right level of data to capture for each. For example, we are now in a project saying that, okay, we wanted to do something on remanufacturing, meaning like we want to collect the end of life product, we have to refurbish it and then make use it again. So for this, we can't straight away, it's not a straight away direct uh, a like a kind of a syntax or a structure, we can use it for these kind of products. So these product requires a different data structure. I don't know whether you understand my point. For each product, the blockchain is not a ready-made, tailor-made thing to easily use it. We can't. We need to retrofit the data, which is a big issue, right? For example, like if you take, for example, remanufactured product, I need to know the warranty. I need to know the number of years of use, and I need to know the present condition. So all these things need to be needed as different structure. So if you go to theoretical level, like if you can create a structure for each product, and that would be very helpful. For example, then companies like IBM or whoever, like they are having this common open ledger or hyper ledger, big cloud base, they will come to you and they will ask for these kind of structure. For example, we said Mango. If you say Mango, they need a typical data structure. So those issues are big. Now, for example, we are in a project of collecting old materials, and then they say circular economy, how to reuse it. So for that, we struggle a lot to come out with the appropriate data structure for coding the information. So that is a big challenge in blockchain right now. We had few discussion with IBM, Hyperledger, and we had few discussion with other circular economy companies. And we were in the mid of like we come to know that there is a lot to be done in terms of interoperability of technology with other existing software.
Thank you, sir, because we always get information on blockchain, but we never get what is the problems that we can solve with the blockchain. And that is the reason I just wanted to
It's
get
all
information.
pilot level. So if you want to get a data also, it is all at pilot level. So nobody full-fledged, no company is using, as I mentioned, like Nestle, they're doing pilot. For all companies, they are doing pilot projects right now. So it's very like a restricted availability of data for you to go and access those data. But if you have a good like academics always can find a way, bit of a challenge, but find a way to work with company people where they can share some of the like they say sensitive, but still they will share some of the data. But the issue is right now, what I understood from my interactions, like basically there is no coded data structure. They are looking for data structure, what kind of information. So those things is hot cake right now for the companies.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I'm Dr. Nitin Mali, calling
Yeah.
from Kolhapur, Shivaji University.
Yes, sir.
Sir, there is always an issue raised about the trust of this particular aspect. That as we know that related to blockchain, we know that Bitcoin was one issue where people were investing, and they felt that who is governing this blockchain? Unlike we know RBI is governing banks. So this kind of issue is always there that for this blockchain technology, who is governing this, and what is the trust or reliability of this entire blockchain as a payment? So I want to, I would like to request you to put more light on.
Yeah, so you touched upon an interesting point, which is going to take a long to tell a story. Like to make it short, yeah, this more financial application, I'm not good at it. I'm just mostly how to apply blockchain for supply chain. For financial, there are many global organizations like Ethereum and others are governing this blockchains. So all the cryptocurrencies. I'm not good at cryptocurrencies, so I'm good at how to apply this technology to ensure transparency and trust in a supply chain. So that's where I'm looking at it. So basically, it's nothing but a shared database where how people can work together, but relying on each other, and then creating reliable like sharing reliable data across them, how it will improve their performance. So that's my scope right now. So yeah, that I have came up with I have come across a number of stories about Ethereum and other providers, like other governing structure on the financial side. So I'm not good at that financial side of blockchain.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I think, is there any question?
Okay, cleared all.
Yes, sir.
So there was one more question from Anita Julian in chat. She asked, entire data analytics done in software KNIME. Yeah, I used my student to do this all this analysis in KNIME. So we are can we use the software for data analytics in any field of study? Yes, you can. It's like a MATLAB or kind of thing. So KNIME could be used for, it's free for all, and you can use it for any kind of analysis. It is a primitive version of Alter YX, which is used in all the commercial enterprises right now for data analysis. But this is for academics. We can pretty much use KNIME. So we are preparing right now material. Soon we'll come out of the book for how to use KNIME as a companion for various supply chain decisions. We are writing for different cases right now. So hopefully we will come out with the book very soon. So we are a group of people, like a couple of them, one of my student and other colleague, we are working on it.
Is there any queries, dear participants? Okay. So on behalf of FDP team, on behalf of coordinators, I would like thanks to you, sir. Really such a wonderful informative session, starting from where you started about the blockchain technology, how because research in academic perspective, how you just carry forward it, for starting to till this. It's really really very informative, sir. Really, whatever topics you touched, where you explained, it's very fantastic, sir. I would like to call upon FTP member. Can I have a vote of thanks?
Good evening to all. On behalf of IIPM and FDP team, I take this opportunity to propose vote of thanks to everyone who took part in the section. At the outset, I thank our honorable guest and resource person, Prof.S.Nachiappan Subramanian. We are really enlightened with your knowledge and experience in blockchain and data analytics. Thank you, sir, for spending your valuable time even in the busy schedule. Thank you all the participants and wish you all a pleasant evening.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Nachiappan, sir. Thank you for your kind acceptance. And
Thank you so much for your patience. And, sorry for rushing through. I had more than like 70, 80 slides. I wanted to.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Really wonderful session. Definitely, we'll have a more sessions for coming projects. Definitely,
sure.
So you are being that part in particular projects. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Dear participants, tomorrow same we'll start morning session. Going to be our resource going to be talk about machine learning. That's going to be talk about how machine learning going to be a part in AI, and entirely 2 sessions starting from 10 to 12. Going to be taught by Professor Pramod Mishra from University of Hyderabad. Is going to be handling the sessions for first 2 sessions. Afternoon session come to the tomorrow program, introduction to deep learning, hands-on training using Python and Google Cloud platforms. That is going to be handled by the Mr. Sudhakar from SAP. I am sure that there is more theoretical perspective, practical perspective, hands-on training also.
Yeah,
I'm
mostly
sure that
tomorrow is hands-on session, sir. Tomorrow mostly hands-on session.
Hands-on session
Tomorrow
only.
is
Yes.
hands-on session.
Okay,
So
sir.
send
Okay,
them the link also to download how to download a Jupyter notebook Python.
sure, sir. Sure, sir.
And also we'll send all the YouTube link.
Yes,
of
sir.
Today's session we'll share. Already we are uploading. It's taking some time to upload in YouTube video.
Yes,
So,
sir. Yes, sir.
before end of this 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, we'll share all the YouTube video and
Videos
also some
also.
software link also.
Yes, sir. And tomorrow's Zoom meeting is old meeting only meeting ID and password. Okay? Due to afternoon, we have some technical issue. We just change that user ID and password. And thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the sessions. Is there any queries from participants? Is there any queries? So, Ganesh, shall I wind up?
Yes, sir. So tomorrow we'll start at 10 o'clock.
Sharp, sir. 10 o'clock, sharply 10 o'clock we'll start.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Sir, Venugopal, sir.
Sir?
Copy the video and.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll get it, sir. I'll get it, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you all.
Thank you all, sir. Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow, madam.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. See you tomorrow morning.